The galaxy was old and filled with countless stories. Civilizations had risen and fallen across the stars, leaving behind ruins, myths, and records that few ever bothered to read. Among these myths was one that spoke of humans. To most species, humans were nothing more than quiet settlers, farmers, traders, and explorers who lived in small clusters of colonies. They were not feared, not respected, only tolerated as one of the weaker races of the galaxy. But the truth was different. Long ago, humans had been something else entirely. They had not only fought wars, they had ended them. Their battles were not remembered for numbers or weapons, but for the terrifying precision and instinct that allowed them to crush enemies who were stronger, faster, or more advanced. Where other species relied on technology and machines, humans relied on themselves. Their willpower, their strange adaptability, and their ability to unite in chaos had made them unmatched. The galaxy had not forgotten them by accident. The memory of humanity's strength was buried on purpose. After the last great war, humans themselves chose silence. They turned away from conquest and blood, hiding their heritage. They sealed away their war codes, their battle songs, and their shrines that stored knowledge of combat. They wanted peace. They wanted their children to live normal lives without being haunted by war. Generations passed, and slowly the image of humanity changed. The terrifying warriors of the past faded into nothing but scattered rumors. Now they were seen as small folk who struggled to hold their colonies together. Some called them weak, others called them harmless. Traders bought from them, pirates robbed them, and empires ignored them. The great powers of the galaxy stopped seeing humans as a threat. On a distant world called Talros, there was a forgotten ruin. It was not marked on star maps. It was not guarded by any force. It was hidden under soil and stone, covered by forests that had grown for thousands of years. Few knew that this ruin was once a human shrine. It was not a place of worship, but a place where memories were stored. Inside its walls rested fragments of the old war heritage, sealed so that no one could misuse them. The shrine was meant to stay silent forever. Its builders had believed that humans would never need to awaken the past again. They trusted peace to last, trusted that the galaxy would not test them again. They were wrong. For many ages, peace was kept, but slowly the balance began to shift. As new empires rose, greed returned. Alien scavengers searched for forgotten relics to sell. Smugglers and thieves looked for ruins to plunder. And on Talros, the shrine that should have stayed hidden was uncovered. No human was present when the first stones were broken open. It was a team of alien scavengers searching for treasure. They laughed when they saw the old walls, thinking they had found nothing more than another dead ruin. None of them understood the symbols carved into the stone. None of them felt the warning in the air. To them, it was only another chance to sell artifacts in the black markets. But the moment they entered, the shrine felt the intrusion. Deep inside its sealed chamber, something stirred. A pulse of energy moved through the ruin, so faint that the scavengers did not even notice. Yet across human colonies scattered in the galaxy, men and women woke in the night, gasping as if they had heard a voice calling them. On a small farming world, a man named Aaron sat up in his bed, his heart racing without reason. He felt danger in the distance, though his colony was quiet. In a mining settlement, a young woman named Mira dropped her tools when a sudden sense of awareness washed over her. Her eyes darted to shadows that no one else noticed. In distant stations, traders paused as their hands shook, though nothing was wrong. The old blood was stirring. Humans had lived for centuries as simple folk, but inside them slept something ancient. It was not gone. It was not erased. It was only sealed, waiting for the day when it would return. The scavengers on Tall Rose had no idea what they had done. By breaking open the shrine, they had disturbed something far greater than treasure. They had kicked open the door to a memory that should have never been touched. In the quiet of the galaxy, as stars shone and fleets moved without care, a shadow of the past stretched awake. Humanity's true nature, buried for ages, was about to rise again, and the galaxy, blind to the truth, had no idea what was coming. The world of Talrose had always been quiet. Its forests stretched wide, its rivers ran clear, and its sky was filled with birds that had never left the atmosphere. Few travelers cared for such a place, for it had no great cities and no trade hubs. But for scavengers, such forgotten worlds were perfect hunting grounds. A crew of 6 aliens landed near the forest ruins. Their ship was old, its hull scratched from years of dangerous jobs. They were not scholars, not explorers, but raiders who searched for artifacts they could sell. Their leader, a tall and thin being with 4 arms named Drac, believed every ruin held profit. He did not care for history. He cared only for gold, crystals, and technology. When they uncovered the first stone wall, they laughed. The carvings seemed strange, filled with shapes of men holding weapons and standing in rows. To the scavengers, it was nothing more than decoration. None of them knew it was human script, etched by ancestors who had wanted to warn anyone who dared to enter. "Break it open," Drac ordered. His voice was sharp, greedy, certain of treasure within. The crew obeyed, placing charges against the sealed chamber. With a rumble, the ancient door cracked apart. Dust and silence poured out. Inside was not gold or gems, but walls covered in patterns of circles and lines glowing faintly with hidden energy. The scavengers stepped inside, grumbling at the lack of riches. To them it was disappointing, but their tools disturbed something they could not see. When one of them touched the central stone with a scanner, the shrine came alive. A wave of invisible force pulsed outward. It did not harm the scavengers, but it stretched far beyond the planet. It passed through space, through colonies, through ships. It reached every human without their knowledge. On the colony of Ryan, children woke crying in the night. On the mining world of Dorth, men dropped their tools, their hearts racing with fear they could not name. On distant space stations, merchants felt their hands shake and could not explain why. Among them was Aaron, the farmer who had already felt a strange warning days before. That night he dreamed of a battlefield he had never seen. Armies clashed, and voices roared around him. He woke sweating, his hands clenched into fists. He felt as though someone had whispered into his ear, telling him to prepare. Mira, the miner, had a different experience. While working, she noticed her reflexes sharpen unnaturally. When a cart slipped from its rails, she caught it before it struck her. Others stared, wondering how she had moved so fast. Mira herself was frightened. She had never been strong, never been quick, yet her body had acted before her mind could think. Across the galaxy, small changes began to appear in ordinary humans. Their instincts grew sharper, their awareness stretched wider. They felt as though they were being trained by unseen hands, guided by memories that were not their own. Alien governments soon noticed. Reports of human settlers showing strange abilities reached their councils. At first, they dismissed them as rumors. But when an entire squad of pirates was defeated by unarmed farmers who fought like seasoned soldiers, the news could no longer be ignored. "Something is happening to them," whispered a council member of the Vorn Empire. "They are waking." The scavengers on Talros remained blind to what they had caused. They filled their ship with fragments of stone, thinking the carvings would sell to collectors. Among the fragments was a crystal core taken from the shrine's heart. None of them realized it was more than decoration. It carried echoes of human war codes, sleeping inside its structure. Drac boasted to his crew as they prepared to leave. "We will be rich. The buyers will pay well for such rare relics." But when the ship lifted from Talros, the crystal pulsed again. Another signal spread, stronger this time, reaching deeper into human bloodlines. For those who carried the old blood, visions became clearer. Dreams of battles were no longer shadows. They were memories of ancestors, teaching them how to fight. Aran felt it when he walked the fields. He could sense movement in the sky before birds appeared. Mira felt it when she swung her pick. Her body moved with balance as though trained for years. Even children played with a strange sharpness, throwing stones with accuracy far beyond their age. The galaxy was unsettled. For centuries, humans had been nothing more than harmless colonists. Now, whispers spread like fire. Alien merchants spoke in fear. Soldiers muttered about stories they had heard long ago. They said humans were not weak. They said humans had once ended wars that others could not. They said humans had been sleeping, hiding their power, and now someone had kicked open the door of their shrine. The scavengers, proud of their theft, had no idea they had woken the first spark. They thought they carried nothing more than old stones. But what they carried was far greater. It was the key to a storm that would soon sweep the stars. The shrine on Talros grew silent again, its chamber empty and broken. Yet its purpose was complete. The lock had been broken, the signal had been sent, and the sleeping gods were stirring in the hearts of men and women across the galaxy. The change began quietly, like a whisper carried by the wind. Few noticed at first. On distant colonies, humans continued their lives as farmers, miners, and traders. But beneath their calm routines, something was shifting. Their blood carried old memories, and those memories were beginning to wake. Aaron, the farmer, was one of the first to sense it clearly. For years his life had been simple. He tilled his fields, tended to his crops, and cared for his family. Yet now he found himself moving differently. When a storm came, he knew where to stand so the lightning would not strike. When a wild beast charged from the forest, he stepped aside with perfect timing and struck it down with a single blow from his farming tool. His neighbors stared in disbelief. Aaron had never been trained as a fighter, yet he moved like one born for battle. Mira, the miner, felt her own awakening deep underground. The tunnels were dangerous, with falling rocks and unstable walls. Before, she had often feared for her life, but now, when danger came, her instincts guided her. She heard the small cracks before stones collapsed. She pulled her friends to safety with seconds to spare. Her body responded faster than her thoughts. She began to feel that she was not just Mira the miner, she was part of something greater, something ancient. Elsewhere, others felt the same. A trader on a space station broke up a fight between mercenaries, moving with speed that shocked both sides. A child on a farming moon threw a rock and hit a target hundreds of steps away. A healer who had never touched a weapon suddenly found her hands steady enough to guide tools with soldier-like precision. It was not training. It was not luck. It was memory. Hidden deep inside, the heritage of old humanity was awakening. The alien powers began to notice. Reports poured into councils across the stars. Human colonists, once seen as weak, were now defeating raiders, pirates, and bandits without weapons or armor. Whole villages fought together as though guided by one mind. Even those who had never met each other reacted with the same instinctive unity. In the halls of the Zelar Dominion, leaders gathered to discuss the threat. They were harmless, one general hissed. For centuries, they could barely defend their colonies. Now, a few dozen farmers defeat squads of trained soldiers. How is this possible? An older counselor replied in a low voice. It is not new. It is old. I have read the records. Long. Ego humans fought wars that shook the galaxy. Entire fleets fell before them, but they vanished as if they had buried their own strength. Fear spread through the chamber. The younger rulers scoffed, calling it superstition, but the older ones remembered the whispers of their ancestors. They remembered warnings that humanity must never be disturbed. Meanwhile, among humans, unease grew. Ordinary people struggled to understand what was happening to them. Some were frightened, others excited. In quiet corners, groups gathered to share what they felt. Aaron spoke with his neighbors about his strange instincts. Mira told her fellow miners about the way her body moved before she thought. Slowly, they began to realize it was not happening to one or two individuals. It was happening everywhere. One night, Aaron dreamed again. In his dream, he stood on a battlefield under a black sky. Around him marched soldiers with human faces, their armor shining, their voices chanting. He felt their courage and their rage. He felt as though they were his ancestors, guiding him, showing him how to stand against enemies. When he woke, his heart was steady and his mind was clear. He knew the dream was not fantasy. It was memory. Mira had her own vision. She saw herself holding weapons she had never touched, moving with a skill she had never learned. She felt the rhythm of war, the way humans once fought. When she woke, she felt ready for something she could not name. Across the stars, more humans dreamed. Some wept when they woke, unable to explain what they had seen. Others stood in silence, their eyes filled with fire. Alien spies brought word of these changes back to their masters. The news spread like a storm. Whispers became fear, and fear became plans. Fleets were moved closer to human colonies. Armies were prepared in secret. The great powers did not want to wait and see what would happen. They wanted control. But control was slipping from their hands. In markets and streets, aliens who once mocked humans began to watch them with wary eyes. A merchant who had cheated human farmers now trembled when they entered his shop. Pirates who once raided human ships began to avoid them, whispering that something unnatural was stirring. Humans themselves did not yet fully understand. Many still wanted only peace. But peace was not what the galaxy had in mind. The shrine door had been kicked open, and the old instincts were rising faster each day. The scavengers who had caused it all traveled through space, still carrying the crystal core stolen from Talros. They laughed, still blind to the storm they had unleashed. They believed they held treasure. They did not know they carried the spark of war itself. The galaxy stood at the edge of change. The humans, once seen as harmless, were no longer the same. Their eyes were opening, their blood was burning, and their ancestors were whispering through dreams. The sleeping war gods were waking, and soon the stars would remember what humans truly were. The scavengers who had opened the shrine on Talros believed they had found nothing more than relics. They carried the crystal core and fragments of stone across the stars, selling them to buyers who valued rare objects. Among their buyers was a warlord named Cern, a ruthless alien who ruled a fleet of raiders. Cern had grown powerful by seizing technology and enslaving weak colonies. When the scavengers offered him the crystal core, he bought it at once. He did not understand the carvings, but he sensed the strange energy that pulsed inside. To him, it was not history, but a weapon waiting to be used. On his flagship, Cern placed the crystal into a machine meant to draw power from ancient artifacts. His engineers warned that the device was unstable, but he did not care. He demanded results. When the machine activated, the crystal flared with blinding light. For a moment, the warlord thought it was useless. Then the light spread like fire through his ship's systems, sending signals far beyond his fleet. The shrine's message, once faint, now roared across the galaxy. It echoed through human bloodlines with greater force than before. In every colony, humans felt it. Their instincts sharpened further. Their dreams grew clearer. Their hearts pounded as though drums of war were beating in their chests. The first test came quickly. Cern, eager to prove his new power, led his raiders against a small human colony called Vera. It was a quiet world of farmers and builders, with no soldiers and no ships of war. The raiders expected no resistance. They landed in numbers, weapons ready, laughing as they advanced toward the settlement. But the humans of Vera were no longer the same. The moment the raiders stepped onto the soil, the colonists felt it. Their hands gripped farming tools like spears. Their eyes burned with strange focus. They moved together without needing to speak, as though guided by an unseen commander. Aaron had traveled to Vera to trade goods when the attack began. He stood among the farmers as the raiders advanced. Fear rose in his chest, but alongside it came something else. His body shifted into a stance he had never learned, his grip steady, his breath calm. When the first raider charged, Aaron struck, with his tool in a perfect arc, dropping the enemy in one blow. The farmers around him did the same. Men and women who had never trained fought with precision. They struck where it mattered, blocked attacks as if they had practiced for years, and moved as one. The raiders were stunned. "These are not soldiers," one shouted. "They are only farmers." Yet the truth was before them. Farmers fought like warriors, their movements too perfect to be chance. The battle raged through the colony. Mira, who had come to deliver minerals from her mine, joined the fight. She leapt between enemies, with a speed she could not explain. Her strikes were accurate, her defense unbreakable. When raiders fired their weapons, she moved before the blasts reached her, as if her body already knew where to go. Within hours, the raiders were in retreat. Dozens of trained fighters had been defeated by unarmed colonists. Their fleet withdrew, leaving their dead behind. CERN himself raged aboard his flagship, unable to believe that simple humans had destroyed his plan. But the news spread faster than his fury. Stories of Vera traveled through space lanes carried by traders and spies. An entire alien fleet had been forced to retreat by men and women who had never been soldiers. Other colonies began to share their own tales. Humans were sensing danger before it came. They were moving in battle as though commanded by voices no one else could hear. In the Grand Council of the Zelar Dominion, panic grew. "This cannot continue," one admiral declared. "If humans keep awakening, they will rise again. We must strike before they grow stronger." But another counselor warned, "Striking them may awaken them faster. Do you not see? They do not learn as others do. They remember." Fear divided the leaders. Some wanted to crush humanity at once. Others wanted to watch and wait. None could agree, but all understood one thing. The balance of the galaxy was changing. Back on Vera, the humans stood among their fields, breathing heavily after victory. Many trembled at what they had done. They had not trained, yet they had. Fought like warriors. Aaron looked at his hands, still shaking, and whispered, "This was not me. This was something inside me." Mira stood beside him, her eyes firm. "It is inside all of us." The colonists looked to the stars, knowing the enemy would return. But for the first time in centuries, they did not feel helpless. They felt awake. In the silence of space, the shrine's signal continued to flow, guiding them, shaping them, reminding them of what they once were. And in the shadows of alien councils, plans for war were already being written. The first strike had been made. Humanity had stood and the galaxy had taken notice. The galaxy was shifting. Humans, once seen as quiet settlers, were now remembered by instinct. Their eyes carried awareness, their hands moved with precision, and their minds began to connect with one another in ways the universe could not explain. News of Vera spread like wildfire. Colonists who had never fought now shared their experiences. They spoke of dreams, of visions, of feelings that guided them as though ancestors spoke directly to them. Farmers, miners, traders, and even children began to recognize patterns in movement, strategy, and combat. It was a memory that had waited in their blood, now returning. Aaron traveled from colony to colony, gathering humans who felt the same change. He met Mira on a distant mining world. Together they visited other settlements, seeking those who had begun to awaken. Everywhere they went, the signs were the same. Humans were instinctively coordinated, alert to danger, and united in thought. The more they gathered, the stronger the connection became. Humans shared stories of dreams where they saw themselves on vast battlefields. In these visions, their ancestors guided them, teaching them formations, tactics, and the art of war. None of them wanted to fight. They wanted peace. But the galaxy had not forgotten, and soon peace would be tested. Alien powers began to move with haste. The Zelar Dominion and the Vorn Empire, once confident in their control over human colonies, grew nervous. Fleets were positioned near human worlds, ready to strike. Armies gathered at strategic points. Spies were sent to watch, to record, to learn. But the humans were already learning faster than any intelligence could anticipate. On a trading hub, called Relith Station, a young trader named Sarah felt the pulse of awakening. She had spent her life moving goods and managing merchants. never thinking of battle. Yet now she could predict attacks before they happened. She guided traders away from ambushes and protected small convoys with tactics she did not know she had learned. Around her, other humans began to notice the same instincts. The humans were not growing stronger in body alone. They were regaining memory in their minds. They remembered battles they had never fought, tactics they had never learned, and the feeling of unity that made humans unbeatable long ago. Aaron and Mira led the efforts to organize the humans. They did not speak of war, yet everything they did prepared their people. Camps were set in strategic locations. Supplies were stored efficiently. Communication signals were established that allowed rapid coordination across worlds. Every step was instinctive, guided by visions of the past. The aliens began to sense this. A scout fleet sent to observe a human settlement on the moon of Dorth reported with fear, "They move as one. They see the battlefield before it happens. They are not like any race we know." In council chambers, leaders argued, "We cannot allow them to grow," said one. "Strike now, before more humans awaken." Another replied, "If we attack, they will only awaken faster. This is not evolution. They are remembering who they are. We are already too late." The humans themselves did not yet see the full extent of their potential. They were learning, growing, and gathering. But there was still more to awaken. Their instincts guided them in small battles, but they had yet to understand the vastness of the heritage within them. In the quiet of the colonies, humans trained without realizing it. Games and exercises became drills. Conversations and teamwork became planning. Even children played with awareness, their games shaping strategy and coordination. It was subtle, yet powerful. Each day, humans became more than they had ever been before. Aaron looked out over the gathered humans one night on the colony of Relan. The stars shone above them, countless and indifferent. "We must be ready," he said quietly. Mira stood beside him, her eyes steady. "They will come, but we are remembering. We will not be caught unaware." From the shadows of alien fleets, the galaxy watched with growing fear. Humans had begun to gather, to share, to awaken. They were no longer isolated farmers and miners. They were a force stirring in the blood of every colony, growing stronger with each passing day. The crystal core taken from Talros continued to pulse, its signal spreading deeper into human consciousness. The shrine had been disturbed and the awakening could not be stopped. Humans were remembering their true selves, their instincts sharpened, their minds connected. The gathering storm had begun. Across the stars, humans moved as one, their hearts and instincts guiding them toward a future no one could predict. The galaxy would soon see that humanity was no longer quiet, no longer weak. They were awakening. The galaxy had grown tense. Alien powers, once confident that humans were harmless, now moved with caution and fear. Fleets gathered near human colonies, and armies prepared to strike with overwhelming force. They believed that if they acted fast, they could crush humanity before the awakening spread further. But humans were no longer ordinary. They were remembering themselves, their instincts alive, their ancestors guiding them. Every colony, every settlement, every group of humans moved with purpose without needing direct orders. They were connected by an invisible thread of shared memory, each learning from visions of battles fought long ago. Aaron and Mira coordinated what they could. Word spread quickly, and humans gathered in strategic positions, preparing for defense. Without knowing fully why, their bodies moved instinctively, positioning themselves in patterns that mirrored ancient formations. Weapons were not always needed, but when humans took them, they handled them with perfect skill, as if the knowledge had been hidden inside them all along. The first full-scale attack came from the Vorn Empire. Thousands of ships descended on the human colonies, expecting easy victories. Soldiers believed they would face frightened farmers. Instead, they met humans who had already anticipated every move. On the planet Relan, a battalion landed, weapons ready. But before the first shot was fired, humans were already in motion. Farmers, traders, and workers moved with speed and precision that stunned the invaders. Rocks, tools, and debris were used as weapons, striking with deadly accuracy. Humans anticipated each strike, countering instinctively, defending themselves as though led by centuries of experience. Mira found herself in the middle of the battle, leading a small group of humans without thinking. She did not know how she knew where to move, where to strike, or where to defend. Her body acted before her mind could decide. Around her, other humans did the same. They moved like a single organism, coordinated and deadly. Aaron watched from a ridge, directing instinctively. He felt the pulse of the humans around him, sensing danger, predicting movements, and adjusting positions. The alien battalion was organized and trained, yet they were confused. Every strategy they tried failed before it could succeed. Humans were faster, stronger, and smarter than they appeared. The battle spread across the colony. Humans who had never fired a weapon now used them with perfect aim. Engineers turned mining tools into traps. Children and elders guided others, their instincts sharper than any officer. Humans fought not for conquest, but to protect their homes, their families, and the memory that had awakened within them. In orbit, alien commanders watched with disbelief. Reports came in one after another, entire squads of trained soldiers destroyed by unarmed colonists. Fleets lost control of spaceports. The humans did not need numbers or machines to win. Their instincts, their coordination, and their memories of war were enough. CERN, the warlord who had purchased the Talros relic, raged aboard his flagship. He activated every weapon, every ship, yet the humans adapted faster than his attacks, could reach them. Each maneuver they made had already been predicted by the humans on the ground. His fleet was losing, and his soldiers began to panic. For the first time in centuries, humans realized the scale of what they were becoming. They felt the power of their ancestors, the knowledge of those who had fought before them, and the connection to each other. Victory was not certain, but fear was absent. The humans were awake, and they would not be stopped. By the end of the day, the Vorn Empire retreated. Human losses were minimal compared to the alien forces they had defeated. Survivors gathered, astonished at what they had accomplished. Aaron and Mira stood among them, looking at the fields of victory. "This is only the beginning," Aaron said quietly. "We have remembered. The galaxy will know who we are." Mira nodded. "They will not underestimate us again. We are not weak. We are human." The crystal core stolen from Talros pulsed in the shadows of space. Its energy continued to spread through human colonies, awakening more instincts, more memories, and more abilities. The shrine had been disturbed, and now the war that had been hidden for centuries was reborn. Alien fleets regrouped, planning for the next assault. They believed they could still win if they acted quickly, but every moment they delayed, more humans remembered their true nature. Across the galaxy, humanity's awakening grew stronger, and the future of war was no longer predictable. The first real battle had been fought. Humanity had defended itself without training, without orders, and without fear. The galaxy now knew one truth. Humans were no longer ordinary. They were rising, instinct by instinct, memory by memory, as sleeping. War gods awakened once more. The world of Talros had become the center of a growing storm. The shrine, once silent for centuries, had been broken open, and its power was no longer contained. Humans across the galaxy had felt the pulse of awakening, and now many were converging toward the planet, guided by instincts and visions. Aaron and Mira led a small group of humans onto Talros. They moved with precision, as if the paths through forests and mountains were already known. Other humans followed from distant colonies, arriving by ships, land vehicles, or simply by instinct. Each one carried the same sense of purpose. The awakening was not complete until the shrine's power was fully restored. The alien fleets had learned of the gathering and saw an opportunity to strike once more. Thousands of ships formed a blockade in orbit. Soldiers prepared to invade the planet, certain that humans, no matter how skilled, could not defend so many at once. But they had not yet understood the truth. When humans reached the shrine, the crystal core that had been taken and misused pulsed strongly. It resonated with every human on Talros and beyond. Those present felt a surge of energy, a call that filled their minds and hearts. Memories of battles long past rushed into them. Formations, tactics, courage, discipline, and the fire that had made humans feared across the galaxy. Aaron stepped inside the shrine, feeling the power flow through him. Mira followed, her instincts guiding her to a chamber deep within. They placed their hands on the crystal core, and the energy expanded, radiating outward. Humans across the galaxy felt the pulse. Their instincts sharpened, their vision cleared, and their connection to one another strengthened. They were no longer ordinary settlers. On the battlefield below Talros, alien soldiers advanced, confident in their numbers and weapons. Then humans began to move. They coordinated instantly, reacting as if guided by a single mind. Arrows, projectiles, and simple tools struck with precision. Humans used the terrain, predicting attacks before they came. The invaders were stunned. In orbit, the alien commanders could see it. Humans on the planet were no longer separate individuals. They moved as one, anticipating each action, countering each strategy. Ships that had threatened colonies before were now vulnerable as humans used instinct and vision to guide their attacks. Even the smallest humans seemed to know the right place to strike, the right time to defend, and the right way to act. Aaron looked at Mira, understanding without words. "It is happening," he said. "The shrine has awakened us fully." Mira nodded. "We are remembering who we are." Inside the shrine, humans reached a state that had been impossible for centuries. The crystal core shone brightly, linking minds and hearts. It was not magic. It was memory, heritage, and instinct combined into living power. They felt the strength of their ancestors, the courage of warriors who had once commanded fleets, and the unity that had made humans unstoppable. The alien fleets realized too late that victory was impossible. No strategy could overcome humans. who fought as living embodiments of centuries of battle wisdom. The humans did not need weapons to strike effectively. Their movements were precise, fast, and coordinated. Every human on Talros, and those arriving from distant colonies, acted with purpose that defied conventional understanding. The invaders began to retreat. Ships fell, soldiers were disarmed, and control was lost. Humans pursued only to protect their homes, ensuring no lives were unnecessarily lost. This was not conquest. It was awakening. It was humanity reclaiming its identity after centuries of hiding. Aaron stood on a ridge outside the shrine, looking at the horizon filled with humans. Their eyes bright, their movements fluid. Mira joined him. "They will never underestimate us again," she said. "No," Aaron agreed. "The galaxy will remember humans are not ordinary. We are war gods, and we have awakened." The crystal core pulsed one last time, a signal felt throughout the galaxy. Humans across distant colonies understood instinctively. They were part of something far greater than themselves. Humanity, once sleeping, had risen in full. In that moment, the galaxy changed. Alien powers would no longer see humans as harmless. Humans were no longer quiet settlers, miners, or traders. They were protectors, warriors, and strategists with instincts and memory that no machine or army could defeat. They were the living legacy of an ancient power, now fully awake, and the shrine of Talros, disturbed so long ago by careless hands, had become the symbol of humanity's return. The sleeping war gods were awake. The galaxy would never forget them again.